Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I decided to group some of the steps and things that have helped me on my journey both in business and in YouTube. So I thought I will break them down into 12 because sometimes I'm aware that I can blabber on and go on and on when I'm talking. So I'll break them down, and whatever I miss, be sure to tune in next time. You'll be able to pick it up. I had spent many years in my life in various jobs that I was doing, and within these jobs in the last 20 years I find that, in work environments, you meet all sorts of people. Some people are bullies, some people are not bullies, some people treat other people real badly. And it appears that sometimes in work environments, if you're good at what you do, sometimes you can find yourself enemies. I don't know if any of you has faced it. You can find people that just dislike you because of the way that you are, the knowledge that you show, or sometimes even the confidence that you ooze. Some people are just not satisfied. So jobs can be very volatile environments sometimes, depending on what type of personality you have. But for me, I found that the more I tried to be nice, the more the bullies really took advantage of me. And it was really a trying time for me in various jobs. So sometimes I would stick it for a year or two, and then I would look for another job, and then I would think, well, I've moved on now. So you still find the other person that just is able to really manage to ruffle your feathers. And I find that as I got older, right, I then was struggling to cope with these people. And I found that a lot of it was really to do with if you're knowledgeable, if you're experienced, or if you ooze something that the bully just doesn't like. So jobs can be very difficult. You can walk into a job, you don't know what you're going to meet. You don't know what type of people you're going to meet. So that really drained my energy over a period of time. Then during that time, I think I had a lot of time to think. And I thought, you know what? I know that I'm qualified to do what I do, which is in the care business. I worked as a nurse for many years, and then I went into management, operational management and clinical management. And I still found, even at the top of my game, you still manage to come across somebody who just does not appreciate what you can do fully. So then that drove me to setting up my own business, right? And that's the steps I'm going to talk you through, how I did it and how I found the courage to do it. But to be honest, it was through some of the challenges that I came across with age. I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore, and I just couldn't tolerate it anymore. My patience ran out after many years of being in work environments. I just thought enough is enough. I'm quite capable, contrary to what these bullies will be trying to do, which is take away your confidence. So I decided I was going to set up my own business, which is what I did, and which are the steps I'm going to try and guide those of you that might want to get into that place. Life can happen for all of us, and you might be in a very difficult place where you might think, how do I get out of this place? And often it's very difficult to see the end of the light if you're in the middle of a storm. So get yourself out of that storm, get yourself out of that mindset, and start to really plan whilst obviously you are still in that job. And the first thing that I can say is that you just need to do your research about what is it that you want to do. Set clear goals and a plan in manageable bite-sized ways that you feel that you can actually achieve, and whilst you're doing the planning, also try to think about, what is it that I want out of this? What is success for me at this point in my life? For me, when I left my job, I was in my late 40s, I was getting into my 50s. So of course, the word retirement kept creeping up in my head. What's my retirement going to look like? I thought I was going to be in a job until I get a good pension with all the years I've put in. But you know what? God had other plans for my life. The storm that I was experiencing, I then realized later that's the very thing that God was using to build my new career, to build, to push me towards setting up my own business, which I successfully did. Hence, I'm sharing some of the tips and how I got out of that situation to be able to find the confidence to set up this new business. So set clear goals. And one thing that I also want to say to people that might be watching and thinking about doing what I've said, what I'm just saying is that make sure that when you're setting your goals, that you really define what success looks like. Don't climb somebody else's mountain and try to, leave somebody else's definition of success. For me, success was being able to work in an environment where it's not toxic, being able to be the driver of my own business, being able to work in an environment that was therapeutic and safe enough for me to flourish whilst I'm working towards my retirement. And that's exactly what I did. So for me, success was being able to do those things, planning my retirement, which is what I'm doing, and being able to put together enough money for me to be able to think about the future and my retirement, since I had cut short the employment. So I knew that whatever it is that I had to do, I had to work really hard. So that was the very, very first thing that I did. The second point that I would sort of emphasize on is, once you decide to embark on that journey whilst you're in another job, is you need to be very good at managing your time. Because as you can imagine, you're in another job, you've got family commitments, you've got house commitments that need you. So you really got to be quite organized to be able to see this through. So it's very, very important to be able to manage your time, because after work you may be tired, you may come home and then you may be feeling a little bit tired. So you really need to time manage. And I mean, for me, I was in a specialist job, very demanding, both emotionally, mentally, in every way. So I had to make a point that as soon as I got out of my car, when I got into our house, I had to switch off from work, because I had to get at home, be a wife, and then eat, and then prepare my meals, and then start to put on my preparation mode for my business hat, put on that hat once I got into the house. And that's what I had to do. And then the third point that I would also say is that when you embark on that journey, make sure that you utilize your evening quite wisely. You utilize your time after work quite wisely. Try to move away from all the distractions and and everything that may distract you, because your time will be limited. You'll have to, for a period, for a season, you'll have to work a 17-hour day, sometimes 16, depending on how much work you're going to put in the evening. So you really need a clear mindset. You really need to be able to come in and plan your evenings wisely, and plan your time and utilize your time wisely, because that's the only way you'll be able to manage it. Things like phone calls, things like conversations with family and other people that you used to do, you find that you really have to pack your evenings. And every evening you achieve something beyond what you even thought you could. It really will be very, very fulfilling. So that's my third point, before I go into my fourth, without telling you fourth, because I thought that might be where I might get myself muddled up. And then the fourth point, which, is something that I also learned to practice, and these are not in any order, right? So you can prepare your own plan, your own goal, your own work life sort of chart, whatever it is that you will be following, your own plan. So the fourth one is, what I had to do when I embarked on this journey was to make sure that I looked after, or I nourished my mind, body, and spirit. Very, very important. Because as we live, as we try to pursue our goals and our dreams, we also need to not forget to live, not forget, we can't forget our health and our mind and our body and our spirit. So what I used to do, and I found that really helped me, every morning I used to get up a little bit earlier than usual, and then I used to go for a walk in my neighborhood, lovely walk, and then I take the box for my physical. And I always found that long walk that I did, it really sort of rebooted me and made me feel so much better. And it woke me up on a good start. And I had my headphones, so I'll be listening to my daily devotions. The word of God for me really worked. And then I would be listening to, commanding my mornings. When you're in a work that's demanding, you've got to just speak life into your situation and pray to God that everything is going to align and fall into its place, and ask God to fight some of the battles, whether it's at work, because those, they don't start in spite of the fact that you've started your own business. So the challenge is, even in a the workplace will continue. So you've got to pray, start your day, and then you've geared yourself physically, mentally, and you've fed your soul with the word of God or whatever it is that works for you. But for me, I find that that's what worked for me. Every single morning I had to do that so that I was in the right frame of mind. And so what I also did, which was the fifth point, is, when you embark on the journey where you've decided you want to do something and you want it like yesterday, then you've got to do it even if you don't feel like it. That's one great thing that I can share with you. Even if you don't feel like it, sometimes life happens, sometimes relationships happens in life, and you fall out with people or you're feeling burnt out. The most important thing is show up. Even if you're crawling, show up. Give yourself that credit, shake yourself off. You've got to, because there's no return. And that's the difference with the smaller percentage of people that achieve to become business people, that manage to achieve a little bit more, is because they keep moving, even on a bad day, even if they haven't had a good phone call or something hasn't gone right, they continue to show up, and all the people that we see that look like they've succeeded or they achieved a little bit more in this life, they've also had to go through the same challenges that you and I may be going through or may have gone through. So all I will say is that make sure that you show up even if you don't feel like it. And the next point, which is the sixth point, if I'm right, is that also just make sure that you nourish your body. You nourish your body, you eat well, you plan your meals, you do batch cookings, especially if you've got a big family. Do a bit of batch cooking, and then you will have meals in the week. Pick a day, maybe on a Sunday afternoon or on a Saturday afternoon, where you just cook a few things. Then in between, you can be throwing in the easy to prepare meals, because without a nourished body, you won't be able to work these 17 hours that we're talking about. It's got to be really well thought through, good eating, because, come to think of it, I'm doing what I'm doing because I've got my health. But with those of you who may have, had health issues in your life, you will find that, when you don't have your health, you can't even plan. You can't even think. Your only goal is to get better. So look after that health whilst, you look after that body whilst you're on your way to pursuing what you want to pursue, because you need that body. You need a nourished mind and nourished spirit, like I said, nourished physical body, so that you can be strong in whatever you're doing. And a good night's sleep, not forgetting a good night's sleep as well, to be able to balance everything. And the next point, which I believe will be point number 7, is that when you embark on this journey, the journey is not going to be smooth. It's not going to be straightforward. You also face challenges. You also, fall. Sometimes you might have to fall and rise up. And I think my belief is those people that we see out there that have succeeded, most of them have got one thing in common, is that they have failed at some point, but they got themselves up and then they got up again. So multiple failures equals to success, equals to learning, equals to adapting that which you will be doing, because you can get into it, you think you know it, but things just don't always work out as you wanted. So you've got to learn to be able to take failure, and be able to learn from it and move on, rather than to just leave it all and let it be, because that's not going to work, right? So you've got to learn to be able to do that. So that's my point number 7. I'll get on to my next point. Point number 8, do not forget where you came from. Remember, you're in this race on your own. So you should only be focusing on yesterday. You should only compete with your past self. Don't try to compete with other people that have done whatever they've done, because you could be distracted. I think sometimes it's good to give yourself credit of where you've come from, where God has taken you from to where you are, and just have that attitude of gratitude and compete with yourself. Yesterday you did less, today you're going to do more. Yesterday you did a bit more, today you'll do a little bit more. That's the only person that you need to compete with is yourself. So I'm really loving this journey. And that's why I've come here to share with those that might be thinking of embarking. I really wish you well. And one thing I would like to do is I would like to hear from you if I've managed to sway you towards starting your own thing, or if you already had started, where are you at your journey? What motivates you? What inspired you? I'd like to hear from you in the comment section. Let's share, let's engage. Let's build a community where we support each other. I also need to be supported. I also need to be inspired on this journey. So yeah, by all means, please feel free to join me and let's have a conversation. Let's connect. And thank you very much, and you take care till next time. Bye everybody.